Amber Duke is the editor for The Spectator, and Sean Davis is the CEO of The Federalist. Welcome to both of you. You know, Sean, I would go on Real Clear Politics, the average of polls, the last 10 national polls, Trump beats Biden, 10 out of 10. I'd be scared if I were him.
He should be scared. And Joe Biden's got a lot of problems. The economy's not great. Inflation is through the roof. Groceries are expensive. College is unaffordable. Gas is over $3 a gallon. But Joe Biden's biggest problem is that people can see the results of his policies, and they're bad. Everyone's worse off now than they were 4 years ago. They're poorer. They can afford less. And that's not the fault of Joe Biden's rhetoric. That's the fault of Joe Biden and Democrat policies. And until they actually can fix those policies, and in my opinion, it's too late, their troubles are not going to go away.
But the problem, we're told, that's sought by Molly Jong-Fast over at MSNBC. Amber, it just stood out to me because it's about controlling the base. To quote her directly, Republicans cannot control their base. Their base runs the show. Aren't voters supposed to run the show?
Exactly. You would think that politicians would want to listen to voters and try to represent their voters more aptly, but the Democrats have contempt for average Americans. That's the whole problem. I mean, across the span of the Biden administration, we have heard repeatedly from his officials how much they hate you. I mean, we had White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki at the podium downplaying concerns about supply chain issues and inflation by referring to it as the tragedy of the treadmill that's delayed. You have Secretary Granholm and Secretary Buttigieg telling people if they're worried about gas prices, then they just need to buy electric cars and put solar panels on their house. It's really outrageous the lengths that they go to dismiss the concerns of average Americans. And so it's no wonder when you see this Bloomberg poll that actually breaks down the issues and who voters trust more, that Trump is leading on the economy by double digits. Yeah. That's the real problem for Biden.
Sean, that is a problem. And this is why Blood Red MAGA is the strategy. I mean, that's Joe's strategy. He knows if it's a referendum on him, he loses every day. He has to deliver the American people a choice and make MAGA such a boogeyman that he can deter voters and by default vote for him. Will it work?
Well, yeah, it's kind of fascinating. You hear his rhetoric where he says we need to set aside the divisiveness and the rancor, and then he goes out and says everyone who doesn't vote for him is a MAGA terrorist, or that if you're black and you don't vote for him, you're not really black. Those are not the words of a man who's interested in unity or uniting the country. Those are the words of a man who's terrified of his own political position and is desperate to make everyone who opposes what he's done look like terrorists. He's going to have a campaign of demonizing and demonization, not a campaign of hope or of trying to get people's best spirits or best thoughts going forward. This is a guy who only cares about destroying his opponents, and too often that includes people like us, regular voters.
Amber, but there are people in the Democrat Party who care about winning. And you would think someone in the party is looking at these poll numbers, not just national polls, swing state polls, and saying, we got to get Joe out of here and put Gavin in here.
And I'm sure those conversations must be happening behind the scenes. We saw David Axelrod, of all people, hint at it a couple of weeks ago, and one of those polls dropped that looked really bad for Joe Biden. I believe it was the New York Times poll. But I think Democrats also have to realize that this is a beyond Joe Biden problem. This is going to have massive effects down ballot. The Democrats need to hold some key Senate seats in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Montana. And if they don't have Joe Biden's coattails to run on, they're going to have a serious problem trying to beat a generic Republican ballot.
No doubt about it. Sean and Amber, thank you.